Hello fellow readers, and Reader says, it is that time of the year again when we look into the future and all the beautiful things that await us there. Which means that today we'll talk about all the books that are coming out in 2025 that I'm looking forward to. It'll be a very short list. I think I only have like 8 books on it, and I would like to make it clear that I make no commitment to read any of these books as soon as they come out, except for 1 or maybe 2. Now, before we move on to the list itself, I would like to talk a little bit about the forever hopefuls, as I like to call them, The Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss and The Winds of Winter by George R. R. Martin. Just like I did last year, I'm gonna start the video by talking about these 2 books, even though there is no release date for them, but if we ever get a release date, I'll be lining up to buy them immediately. However, even though I'm an optimist by nature, I don't think we'll ever get either of those books, especially The Winds of Winter. George R. R. Martin is at an age where priorities are different and the levels of energy and motivation are different. Probably inspiration is long gone, so I am like 99% sure we'll never get this book, but I'm putting the intention out there on the off chance that we actually get them. Now that out of the way, let's get into the actual list in the expected publication order. I'm gonna be reading from my computer if you see me looking down. Starting with Breath of the Dragon by Shannon Lee and Fonda Lee. This is a YA Asian-inspired fantasy and the first book in the Breath Marked series. I don't know anything about the plot of this book besides what the cover suggests, which leaves me with the impression that we'll probably follow martial heroes, but what actually caught my attention were the authors of this book, starting with Fonda Lee, who's a very popular fantasy author. She's the one who wrote the Greenbone Saga, I think it was called. I read the first book, Jade City, and quite enjoyed it, and the reason why I didn't continue with it is that I'm not into mafia storylines into fantasy, but if that's something that appeals to you, I think you will definitely like it. I've heard that the last book in the series is masterfully written. So that's one of the authors, but the other one, Shannon Lee, is actually the daughter of Bruce Lee, and that's really what attracted my attention because, as I understand it, the book is based on characters and teaching by him. And as a child of the 90s, I would be very curious to see how those are incorporated into the story, and honestly, just curious to see what her writing is like. Now, the funny part is that this is the first thing that the synopsis of the book mentions, so this is definitely a tool that is employed by the marketing team of the publisher, and I realize it's a bit of a shallow reason to be picking up a book, but I'm only a human and they got me. I don't know if I mentioned this, the book comes out on January 7th. Then on the 14th of January, we have Lightfall by Ed Crocker. This is an adult vampire urban fantasy / horror and the first book in the Everlance trilogy. Now, I'm not gonna try to summarize the synopsis for you. You can obviously go and check it out. I'm gonna link every single book in the video description, but basically the book is centering around vampires and werewolves and other nasty things, and it all happens in the last vampire city in the world. There seems to be a lot of mystery, some murder investigation, and a lot of suffering and drama. And if we can trust the synopsis, this book is gonna do very well with fans of Jake Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire and Richard Swan's The Justice of Kings, and I really like both of those series, so I'm definitely interested in this one. Then we'll skip February and March entirely and we'll move straight to April 1st when we expect the publication of A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is an adult fantasy mystery and the second book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. I read the first book in the series, The Poison Cup, earlier this year, shortly after it was published, and I quite enjoyed it. I have a full review of it. You can watch it over here if you want to, and I'm really curious to see whether my theories will be confirmed and what will happen next. The whole story is set in a very original, crazy, and kind of creepy world, and we follow 2 very quirky and very easy to like characters. So if you haven't given book 1 a try, I highly recommend it, and I'm really looking forward to continuing with the series. Then on the 1st of May, probably, I'm not 100% sure about the release date, we have The Isles of Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. This is an adult either novella or a full-length novel, I'm not 100% sure, which is gonna be kind of the 5th secret project by the author. This is something that he announced somewhat recently, or at least I found out about it somewhat recently. It will be set in the Cosmere and will follow Sixth of the Dusk, which is a very nice little novella that I absolutely loved. The world that this whole story is set in is kind of an island world, and we have a very interesting magic system that is related to birds. I I don't want to say too much more because Sixth of the Dusk novella is very short and I don't want to spoil anything about it. If you haven't given it a try, I advise you to go ahead and do so, even if you don't know anything else about the Cosmere. If you haven't read a single book from it, I think you will still be able to enjoy this one. So I'm probably going to be reading this one as soon as it comes out. Then we have my absolutely most anticipated release of next year, and probably for the past few years, minus Wind and Truth. On the 13th of May, we are expecting the publication of The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This will be an adult horror / dark fantasy, something in that ballpark, and as far as I understand, for now at least, it will be a standalone and it won't be set in the First Law world, which makes me very, very curious because this will be the first book by the author that I read that won't be related to this world. Honestly, I haven't even read the synopsis of this book because I don't care. The author could put out his shopping list and I will be reading it the moment I get my hands on it. So you best believe that on the 13th of May, come hell or high water, I am reading this book. On the same day, we have another book coming out that is called Angie Kills a King by the author Evan Lakem, who is, as far as I understand, a book reviewer. I don't follow him myself, but I've heard of him. I think he has a very popular Bookstagram channel. This will be a debut for the author. It is an adult epic fantasy and the first book in the Rising Tide series. I think the book has a very interesting synopsis. I'm gonna read it for you because I'm very bad at summarizing those. Angie works as a castle servant cleaning laundry for a king she hates. So when a rare opportunity presents itself, she seizes the chance to cut his throat. Then she runs for her life. In her wake, the kingdom is thrown into disarray while a bounty bigger than anyone can imagine lands on her head. On her heels are the fabled mercenaries of the menagerie, whose animal-shaped masks are magical relics rumored to give them supernatural powers. It's the Hawk who finds Angie, a surly aging swordswoman who has her own reasons for keeping Angie alive and out of the hands of her fellow bounty hunters, if only long enough to collect her reward itself. With the rest of the menagerie on their trail, so begins an alliance as tenuous as it is temporary, and a race against death that will decide Angie's fate and may change the course of a kingdom. The marketing says that the book is for fans of Joe Abercrombie, R.F. Kuang, and Christopher Buehlman, and I'm a big fan of two of those authors, so I'm definitely gonna attempt to give it a try if I have the opportunity. Then on June 24th, we have The Last Vigilant by Mark A. Latham. This is an adult standalone fantasy. That's all I know about it, and the only reason why I picked this one is because I really like the cover. It gives me really good vibes. It kind of reminds me of The Eye of the World, and I am curious to read a story that can be represented in this way. Yes, I am judging a book by its cover. It is a shallow decision. I have made it anyway. Then in November, we don't have the exact date as of the time that I'm filming this video, we have the last book in the Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. The book doesn't have a cover or a title yet, but I have taken the liberty to name it Empire of the Very Dramatic Death of Everyone You Like, because this is what I suspect will happen, and I'm perfectly fine with it. Jay Kristoff actually announced that the book is coming out in November just yesterday, and I am really, really excited to see how this story will conclude. This is currently my favorite vampire series, though the bar is not very high because I haven't read that many, but I definitely think that the author has done a great job with it. Okay, please excuse the way that I look in the terrible audio. I'm literally filming this like an hour before I post the video, and I'm about to head out for a run, but I just realized that Brandon Sanderson is actually publishing yet another book in 2025, and that is Tailored Realities, which should be a collection of short fiction, some of which has already been published before but individually, and some of which has never seen the light of day. All of them will be in the realm of fantasy and sci-fi, and none of them will be in the Cosmere. Every single story will also be coming with a black and white illustration, which is something that I really appreciate in the more recent Brandon Sanderson publications. As far as I understand, the book will be coming out at some point in December of next year, so whenever that happens, I will be purchasing and reading it. And that is it. Those are the 8 books that are coming out in 2025 that I'm really looking forward to, with 2 of them being my top priority, and with one of them really The Devils by Joe Abercrombie being a book that I would read right now if I had it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you found a book that sparked your interest, and please let me know what are the new releases that you're looking forward to the most in 2025. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to see me tier rank all of my 5-star reads, check out this video. Bye!